Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, waiting the kids and phone the neighbors, wait, get all those ships at sea too, and welcome to another episode of DemocracyRadioNetwork.com. This is your somewhat semi-politically savvy minded political host, Abby Kaufman, and we are here. I want to thank everybody for joining us on a thirsty Thursday, June the 9th, or July 9th. God, time goes by. July 9th, and as you can see, it's not a super sunny California morning, but it's a lot of days are like this. But guys, before we get started, I want to give a few shout outs. The first one I want to give is to the 810 people who looked at my new video, and the new video was a parody of the Beatles' Octopus's Garden, and I rewrote it to something like instead of "I'd like to pee under the sea," "I'd like to pee where Trump sleeps." My 32 fluid ounce number one. And like I said, if you want inclined to look at it, it's on the Instagram page at Democracy Radio Network, and you'll see it's the most recent video. And I say I had a blast doing that, and it came to me in a vision, like most things, but I was able to get it down fairly well and fairly quickly. So. And the mere fact that 810 people clicked on it, I'm pretty happy about that. So I want to give a shout out to the 810 plus people that have checked out the new music video on Instagram. So thanks, guys. And next, I've got to give a shout out to the guys at what is it called? Pizza de Oro. And I know it means pizza of gold and all that, but anyway, these guys are up on near on Baker Street near between Harbor and Bristol, and these guys, it's just an old school Italian restaurant. The red booths and the red and white checkered tablecloths and all that. And they have different specials depending on the night. It might be all you can eat lasagna one night, all you can eat spaghetti night another night, eggplant parmesan night, whatever it is. And I went there last night because last night was Wednesday night, and Wednesday night means all you can eat spaghetti night. And I kind of laugh whenever I go to I have to go to a Pizza de Oro for a little all you can eat spaghetti. And the truth of the matter is, I barely make it through the salad and garlic bread. I might take a few forkfuls of spaghetti, and then I'm just stuffed. So if you want a meal that can feed a couple of people, go to Italian, that is, go to Pizza de Oro in Costa Mesa, and there's also one in Huntington Beach that's supposed to be even better. So just if you look, I was looking for a good old Italian restaurant. That's it, and especially on the deals. And like I said, shout out to Andrew, and God, I forgot that server's name. And it's funny. All I could think of was to ask her because she's really attractive woman or young lady, whatever. And I'm like, how did you come to work here? Did they just advertise for an Italian goddess and you showed up? I mean, how does this happen? But we'll let you know how that goes. Like I said, it's Thirsty Thursday, and God knows that there are more than enough reasons to drink today. But just for the sake of it, I try to not drink on Mondays. But today's Thursday, so it's all clear. I'm ready. God knows I could use at least one adult beverage. I'm not. There used to be this old sailor superstition where you against odd numbers, and of course, odd numbers on your sailboat you can get redone. But in real life, that means you either have to drink two, four, six, 8 or 10 beers. And I question the wisdom in that anymore. But God, I enjoyed invoking that rule when I was growing up. You want another beer? Sure, it's an odd number. So anyway, let's welcome everybody in, and I want to remind everybody the lines are open. Give us a call at 949 hang on, 949-629-3820. And let's make sure we get the old Zoiper 5 up and running so we can chat with whoever's inclined to give us a call. Like I say, if you agree with us, let us know. If you disagree, let me know too. And I mean, I've been wrong before, and let me know, and we'll work through the argument together. And if your argument's better than mine, then I will clearly see it your way. I mean, I have to. I'm not here to inflict my views on everybody, but I might kind of enjoy it anyway. Okay, so there we are, the old Zoipers 5 setup. And like I said, number is 949-629-3820. And we'd love to hear from you today in light of the continued incompetence. You're not surprised that a new error is made every day. What we're shocked at is the gravity and the unwillingness to say, oops, I made a mistake. Let me do it another way. Right? Have you heard that from those guys? No. What do they do? They take the subhuman Neanderthal approach and they just hit it with a bigger hammer or hit it harder. And it really is an example of that saying that if you have only one, if your only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And I'm sure that won't be lost on anybody who keeps up with the malady that is Donald Trump. And, I talked yesterday about John Dean warning Richard Nixon about Watergate. And I think John Dean's famous quote was, Mr. President, or that there's a cancer growing on the presidency. And in this case, Trump is the cancer of the presidency. Ideally, you would treat him like every other cancer. You cut him out, and you go through therapy, and you hope for the best. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, so where are we? And whenever somebody says that, I'm like, man's been pondering that question for centuries. But here's where we are. And I'm going to tell you right away, and this is from the New York Times, the most credible newspaper in the world, bar none, with the BBC being an extremely close second. And I would tell you, I don't think that's much of a coincidence when you think about it. Uh, you know, to have freedom of speech and freedom of the press, finally get to England. And I mean, how else did we get it? It was exported, when the colonials came over. And guys, there's two sorts of people basically in the U.S. They're either native born or they're American. We don't have different classes of people. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to where we are now. And it looks to me as though the what Trump called a what was it, like a Nobel worthy ending, while Trump claims to have ended the Iran U.S. war. The truth of the matter is, the best he got was a ceasefire, and he extorted 11. And they just extorted 11 daylights out of him. Starting with the truth in doubt, Trump threatens Iran. Shipping stops again. Guys, we've been through this with COVID, the supply chain interruptions and all that. And let's keep in mind, this didn't have to happen. It did not have to be this way. If you didn't elect an ignoramus who's not only is he ignorant, he's apathetic. He doesn't know and he doesn't care, which is just the worst. And guys, you were told all this. You were told. You had a choice between a highly educated, efficient woman or a monster, and you chose the monster. Do you expect us to take you seriously now? If that's your best judgment, don't you think it kind of sucked? And if you don't think it sucked, tell me why. 949-629-3820. I'm awfully curious to hear, but that's just not my thought. And I'm going to take a little diversion here and just have a few thoughts about generalized democracies and all that. And a democracy is more than just a way of living. In a democracy, there's this social contract notion that I think came from John Locke, maybe in the 16 or 1700s. And so, like I said, we're not talking about everybody having a direct say in everything, but you do have a direct say, and it is guaranteed by the Constitution to have a right to vote relative to federal elections. And I'm sure the state's just going to, incorporate by reference. Um, but like I said, we've been there with COVID. We know what happens when the supply chain gets interrupted. Trump knew it. Oh, he was told. He's too ignorant and apathetic to get it, but he was told all this. Uh, so what are we going to expect? Well, yeah, it's funny. I would expect real rockiness all over, but the financial markets just seem to kind of shrug it off. Well, it's like, oh well, another Trump blunder. Ha ha ha. Let's go in all in, and they do. Okay, so anyway, it starts again, and also there. Have you seen the picture of the Iraqis mourning the Iranian supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei? I mean, there were just hordes of Iraqis mourning the slain Khomeini, and here's why, and I'll explain the deal in just a second. He was our guardian and protector. My heart is on fire and cries. I assume that means she's really pissed and cries. Uh, and this is the message that comes out of all this. The message here is we defied the world. America, Israel, and the great global powers, we are with justice and we are with Iran. I don't think those Iraqis have much negotiating room. It sounds to me as though they're all in on Iran and Khomeini. And if they're all in on Iran and Khomeini, that means they're all in on, you guessed it, death to America. And again, how do we get here? Well, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu had a little chat, and Bibi was such a good salesman, he convinced Trump to go into war with him over this. Okay, so anyway, that's the Middle East is incredibly unstable, and you've got just and Iraq there's just full of grief and defiant words, and Tehran's just warning us. That's Iran. Uh, and and how we got here was it's probably as a chicken and egg thing. I'm sure the Iranians fired on something somewhere somehow, um, but it's not like we can respond in kind. We have to go there and be there, and cost money. And let's not forget about that 3.8 trillion he added to the deficit thanks to the big beautiful bill that was actually a big beautiful time bomb, because all the benefits kick in really early and all the burdens kick in, guess when? After Trump's out of office. I mean, what a weasel, huh? Yeah, if I had a better word for weasel, I would use it. But for now, let's just kind of stick with weasel. And but anyway, so the result of I guess to further complicate the plot, Trump says he just unilaterally decides the ceasefire's over. And keep in mind, this is what he sold as a victory, but the ceasefire's over, and Trump threatens renewed attacks on Tehran. And we hear things mentioned like desalinization plants and power structure infrastructure. And what do you say? The guy just effed up and he won't admit it. Now, and I'm going to tell you something. If you and I and every other sane person out there wants to see America make it from number 250 to number 500, you'll only do it by having a somewhat unified citizenry, right? And and the citizens, if they feel they have a stake, great. If they don't feel like they have a stake, what are you going to do? So, we've got, there was a thing about Trump's target number one now. And anyways, but he unilaterally declares the thing over. It's the authoritarian, narcissistic dictator stuff that just, he couldn't keep it hidden in a bottle if his life depended on it. It's just who he is. He insists on showing us every day. And, he's a unique guy in history, I think, because the more times you see him, the more you actually hate him. It's not like he tries to be warm and fuzzy. He's just he's just a loudmouth bore from New York City. Is the truth of the matter. So anyway, like I said, you guys were told. Kamala said she'd come in with a to-do list. Trump would come in with a revenge list, and you guys had a choice. We all had a choice. Everybody that voted had a choice. Now the choice you chose was inexplicable to me. I mean, wasn't January 6th enough? I mean, why would you forgive that? You might forgive everything else, but why would you forget that? Huh? Well, and I'm gonna kind of go out on a tangent here, and I think let me just back up a second. Like I said, to get to 500, we're gonna need kind of a unified citizenry, and the key to that is having everybody believe a common set of operative facts that are true. See, if one side is just entirely, election fraud, election fraud, election fraud, and they're an extreme minority, they'll never come around. And it'd be impossible to have a unified citizenry. So the best we can hope for is, the best we can hope for. Um, so let's get back to Iran just because it's so sticky. So where are we now with that? Well, it looks to me as though Trump's back to having a kind of a muddled war and a bunch of, shall we say, unpalatable options. And it's just he's just a worthless pos. And you remember that Great American State Fair thing a few days ago, and it's the biggest thing around, and whatever else, and it turned out to be a flop. I think there were more people at my Starbucks this morning than were at the Great American Fair that extorted states to if they wanted to exhibit. I forgot if those guys had to pay like I think it was $100,000. Nice little piece of change. Uh, but anyway, let's keep going here. So at that same state fair, and at that same rally that he had was, when a birthday party becomes a political rally, it ain't a birthday party anymore. Just, well, you might want to make a note there, White House. Uh, so anyway, he's at the Great American State Fair. Trump gets up there like he does, just, all full of himself. And he declares, get this, for the first time, number one, the first time in 3,000 years, I can't do that, 3,000 years, we're going to have peace in the Middle East. Is that not laughable? For the first time in 3,000 years, we're going to have peace in the Middle East thanks to what I did. Okay, and we'll go a little deeper. But like I said, what Trump, the way he got out was he just kind of, took the ceasefire deal and started spinning it every way he could. And when the deal doesn't last a month, you get a little, you get a little antsy, right? And here's the real problem with this. Trump needed a deal now, right? And when you need something quickly, and what's the thing? Haste makes waste. I mean, usually there are consequences to poorly thought out decisions. And so, anyway, so he assumed, and Trump is just such an idiot. He thinks everybody's inferior to him, and that everybody is a money grubber, or that money will solve anything. So, guess what he does? Right? What's part of the deal? See, and by going along with the dollar amount and all that, uh, Trump has uh, he thought he could buy Tehran. He thought he could pay these guys off, and kind of go home and let everything be relatively, what's that word, copacetic. I hadn't used that in ages. I was going to say the thing didn't last a month, and you see, Trump thinks Iran could have been bought with money and all this stuff. But again, that's how ignorant he is, and the reason he's ignorant is Iran values their revolutionary ideology more than they value money. So why would you offer them money? It's an inferior deal. So, but you know, like I said, the guy's just exhausting. Between all just the, I think Joe Scarborough was good the other morning. He actually called it all the steady stream of bullshit coming out. Sorry, geez, the steady stream of BS coming out of the White House, and you know, Joe Scarborough was. I think Joe Scarborough is actually a legitimate conservative. Rarely agree with him, but I think he's a principled guy, and I think he tells the truth. And if he didn't tell the truth, I don't think he'd be on the air this long. Uh, so anyway, so where are we now? Iran wants their rebels. Trump thinks they want money, so Iran now has the money, and they're still still fighting. So it's really, which is why, please, if I could beg and plead and do all that other stuff, I would love for Trump to explain the victory here in a primetime address to the nation from the Oval Office, or at least from the White House, whatever room he chooses is fine. But yeah, I'm a little hard pressed to see this. But back to the immediate story. So Iran fires on a few ships, and U.S. declares ceasefire. Oh, or not the U.S. Trump declares ceasefire over. Uh, so as of now, what are Trump's options? I mean, what does the guy do? And it looks to me as though he's got three basic choices or three basic options. Uh, he can either endure what's going on, he can either escalate the situation and bring the troops back, and you can imagine how that's going to go over, or uh, or he could just agree to whatever they want and just here, and they're all unattractive. I mean, none of those are really good options for the U.S. Uh, so yeah, unpalatable options. What do you do? How do you make an unpalatable option taste good? I don't know, but there's everyone that would take geez, what's that? A cow patty, I think they call it, and spin it into something else. Oh, you know what? Trump is the kind of guy that would spin hog manure and call it the ultimate virgin hog manure. He would just repackage it no matter what. He would repackage dog poop or cat poop, but whatever kind of you want to do. Um, oh, and on those lines, my the video today was what was it? I'd like to pee where Donald Trump sleeps, and let's say we're over 800 video views, and I just want to again thank you everybody. So before then, let's get back to and don't forget, even if he solves the Strait of Hormuz problem, and there's lots of stuff they agreed to leave unresolved. So, in addition to the old nuclear problem, you got to deal with their missile program, their support for terrorists, uh, the way they treat the citizens, just massively killing them in protest. Uh, so like I said, those are options that none of them seem really good, do they? But again, just just as elections have consequences, choices have consequences, and nowhere that they show up more but in politics. And like I said, somebody could please explain why they voted to Trump. Uh, I'd love to hear from you. I do have a 4-page printout of business failures ready for the guy or the woman that calls. Says, well, I thought he was a good businessman. Okay, well, that's now. Do you have any evidence to support that conclusion? No, I just thought he was a good businessman. Like, okay, well, let me show you his list of bankruptcies. Or let me ask you, do bankruptcies make better people and presidents? No, they don't. So in this case, let's pull out Trump's 4 pages of bankruptcy, and I won't call it bankruptcy fraud, but I will point out that a lot of these deals are just they're just tailored for Trump, right? They they make money when They make money being the exchange for the crypto deal, in addition to profiting on bets on the Bitcoin and all the other digital currencies like that. Uh, and like I said, at the end of the day, you just take a deep breath. And you know what you do? You resolve to join at least one local Democrat Party, and you volunteer to do at least one thing. It might be put a sign in the yard. God knows that's strenuous. Or, make a few phone calls, or walk the streets and do a little old fashioned canvassing. Um, we've just got to, it's kind of missing, right? And but anyway, like, so you had the choice and you chose the monster. So let's keep digging here, and and you gotta love this one. You remember when the judge said that Trump's name had to come off the Kennedy Center, so he puts the scaffold up with a tarp of some sort, so you can't see his name taken off. I mean, how petty and childish is that, right? And the answer is about as childish and petty as we expected. You can't. Yeah, nothing he does is unexpected. You just know. And don't forget, Trump never surprises on the upside. He just always manages to sink just a little bit lower. Yeah, they say it's just about the darkest hours just before dawn. Well, in Trump's case, the darkest hour is just before the darkest hour because there is no light in there. So anyway, so guess what he does? Judge says, no, you got to take your name off, named by Congress. Only Congress can undo it, so on and so forth. So, of course, they put a little top up to keep from seeing the name taken down. But then they appealed the decision. Right? They appealed the decision as to as to whether Trump. They appealed the decision as to taking Trump's name off the Kennedy Center, telling him just got to get it off. And so he appeals that decision. Instead of just going along with that one thing, he's got to appeal the decision. So he appeals, and guess what happens? He gets shot down. Name's got to come off now. No, no hiding, no nothing. The wrong is ongoing. Let's fix it. And I'm sure we haven't heard the last kind of weasel tactic here. Be interesting to see what it is. Like, I'm just dying to hear him defend this thing from the White House. I'd like to see that almost as much as I'd like to see another Christian Walker Trump interview. But this time, I want Trump's arms strapped to the arm of the chair, and I want his legs shackled to the leg of the chair so he can't get up and run away and walk out like he did. He needs to sit there and take it like a man. And if Christian Welker asks you a question, you need to know you ain't going anywhere. And there's 340 million people watching you. To me, that sounds pretty intimidating, but to a narcissist, I'm sure he just eats it all up. Can you imagine? They say that people love attention, and it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, good attention or bad attention. And the only thing I can think of is, well, that might be true on some level. There's a long way to go with just mental abuse and all that, and that's no small part of what Trump's game is. But anyway, so, and then can I show you something else? This is off and on in the news. This is not helping us maintain a democracy. He's tearing it down. And this thing was that states were told to change their voting rules or else. And at that point, it's a threat, right? If you don't do it, then I will do X. So they were told to change the voting rules or lose federal funding. I mean, the guy clearly would not have a problem with siege warfare. I mean, he would surround the city and just starve them out. As wrong and pathetic as that is, he's just a malicious, pathetic old man who conned a lot of people in his life and still ain't over. And don't forget, guys, this won't be the end of it. He's got 2 kids that I'm sure will make this old man look like a saint if that's at all possible. Okay, so we got the old cheeseburger stuff down and all that. And now I'm going to do something I never do, and something that I rarely do is I rarely read to you guys. I just, you don't need it. You're a fairly sophisticated lot, fairly well educated. I'm sure everybody that listens in is much more educated than I am. We just got a little power for the laptop. Um, so anyway, I'm going to read to you. And this is, again, I only do these things when I think they're vital, and I think that I would do an injustice trying to, summarize it. I think it's better to give it all to you guys, and we'll go from there. And it and the I didn't want that. Where did I put it? Uh, anyway, let's kind of get back to the. Oh, I know where I put it. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and stick with this. And this was written by Nick Kristof, and yes, he's a New York Times reporter, and you got to take people like that seriously. So this is columnist Brett Stevens. What did I say? No, columnist Nick Kristof from the New York Times, and this is today, July 9th, 2026, and it goes like this. And the title is "My Battered Hope for America." Okay, it starts out. Our 250th birthday party seemed to me a divisive, troubled, and angst-ridden uh, as America itself. The evacuation of crowds from the Washington Mall because of extreme weather captured the moment. President Trump tries to defy and deny natural forces of climate change, even as they shape our lives. Under Trump, America is doubling down on fossil fuels and allowing China to dominate green energy technologies that will be central to the 21st century economy. Myopia, nearsightedness, squared is not a good omen. In that sense, our unsettled birthday makes me ponder the fates of some places I visited over the years. Kaliing is today a sleepy Chinese city on the Yellow River. Built a millennium ago, it was probably the most important place in the world. It was then China's capital and was crowded with a population of about 1 million. Um, and keep in mind that relative to that, London's population was 15,000 at the time. They've got over 1 million. Other contenders for global leadership in the year 1000 were the Byzantine Empire, based in, where? Constantinople, the Abbasid Caliphate, based in Baghdad, and the Ghaznavid Empire in West Asia, headquartered in what is now Ghazni, Afghanistan. None were able to adapt and preserve themselves. So I wonder, can the United States hold on to? Will the United States still be vibrant on our 500th birthday? Or will we go the way of the Byzantium and the Abbasids? Our vulnerabilities are obvious, with two-thirds of America saying we're pretty seriously on the wrong track. I worry in particular that we are underestimating the tripartite approach that has made the United States dominant, starting with heavy investments in human capital, such as education. Uh, hang on. Such as education. The U.S. was a world leader in mass education in the 19th and 20th centuries, but now we rank ninth in reading, 16th in science, and 34th in math, according to the PISA global ranking of student test scores. Human capital is about our health and well-being, and that likewise is discouraging. The United States now ranks 61st in life expectancy globally, according to the World Bank. A second prong, listen to this, a second prong of America's growth path was the welcome we inconsistently and imperfectly at times offered immigrants. When when Christoph's father was on a ship in New York Harbor, arriving as a refugee in 1952, a Boston woman next to him on deck welcomed him as a young American. And he was awed that he, a refugee, couldn't even speak English, was being hailed even for his, as an American, even before he set foot on American soil. For now, that welcome has mostly been removed, except perhaps for some white refugees from South Africa. Yeah, we know about those guys. The number of foreign graduate students studying at American universities last fall fell 12% from the year before, and further declines are expected. I personally think further declines are inevitable, but we'll go with expected and give Christoph the benefit of the doubt. The third element. Okay, so uh, we had smart people. We took people in from all over the world. Just imagine that. Okay. The third element of America's growth formula, a reliance on free markets, remains largely intact, at least by international standards. But inequality appears to have soared since 1980 when Reagan was president, and there's evidence that while some inequality is necessary for growth, too much inequality dampens growth. The dollar remains overwhelmingly the world's currency, but has weakened, and its supremacy is being challenged at the edges. Guys, I'm going to tell you that's clearly not a good thing, and another thing to thank Donald for. Thank you, no. Yeah. And what do we mean by revolution? John Adams asked in an 1815 letter to Thomas Jefferson. He answered his own question, saying that the revolution was not a war, but rather something that unfolded in the minds of the people. And Christoph goes, yes, exclamation mark. True. Our animating ideas of equality, opportunity, and openness to immigration were in part rhetorical flourishes because they don't explain Jim Crow laws, the Chinese Exclusion Acts, or tight curbs on Jewish immigration. But these ideas were aspirational, and over the centuries, they inspired real progress. Now, I fear we've retreated even further from the aspirations. As I see it, we've lost two wars in the past 6 years, one against the Afghan Taliban and the other one against Iran this year. Not to mention last year losing a trade war with China. We may be retreating from NATO in our efforts to buttress Taiwan. Our position, divided at home and weakened abroad, is reminiscent of the decline of great powers in the past, not just the Abbasids and the Ghaznavids, but also Spain in 1588 and Great Britain in the late 19th century. So that late 19th is early 1800s. Still, and for all the uncertainties about our trajectory, I think I'm a bit more optimistic than many of my fellow Americans. Well, tell us how. Thought you never asked. Maybe that's because my wife and I were in a small town in America, Ashland, Oregon, for the Shakespeare Festival on July 4th. And Ashland's annual Independence Day parade was uplifting celebration that included free American flags and popsicles, a military flyover, a parade with participants calling for universal health care and welcoming immigrants, sorry. Far from the toxicity of Washington, it captured all the contradictions and beauty of our country. My very guarded optimism about America's long run prospect is based on three factors. First, we appear to have maintained an edge, partly by importing scientists and technology, which since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution has been a driver to progress and global leadership. Then it was the steam engine and the spinning jenny. Now it's AI, material science, and biotech. As our technological sophistication pairs well with the world's deepest financial markets, with American stocks accounting for roughly two-thirds of global stock value, compared with less than 30% in 1988. Second, other nations have their own problems. Our principal competitor for now is China, which has enormous strength, but is also aging fast and declining in population and is led by an aging dictator. Third, prophecies of American decline are nothing new. My hopes of the long continuance of this union are extinct, John Quincy Adams wrote in 1834 during a crisis in South Carolina. In the 1980s and 1990s, when I was a foreign correspondent in Asia, it was Japan as number one. And in the 2000s, expert debated which year China's economy would surpass America's. Now, some believe that may never happen, and the U.S. has not seen the collapse of population growth that many other industrial countries have. Our more youthful population, partly because of immigration, confers vitality, and vigor. So I don't believe that our decline is inevitable, but much will depend on whether we have the wisdom to revert to our proven strategy of investing in human capital, welcoming ignorance, and embracing free markets against a backdrop of some equality. And he concludes with onward to the 500th. So you see why he called it his battered hopes for America. And if there's anyone who doesn't think Trump doesn't think Friedman is doing a really good job, please give me a call. Let me know 949-629-3820. It looks to me as though the decent papers are bending over backwards to comply with every rule and obstacle Trump may throw up, and all that means is he's not over trying. But that's where he kind of hits the limit of his intelligence. Well, actually, first he hit it, a lot earlier. Uh, but yeah, he didn't. It's not it's not like Gene Pool is really deep there, Uh, but I always like when Nick redid those kind of show tunes. So anyway, guys, that's I'm kind of curious. Did everybody have a decent July 4th? I can't believe it was only this past weekend. So around here, it really did seem fairly subdued. I mean, you had the occasional street or cul-de-sac closed for neighborhood block party or whatever it is. Um, but no, I mean, I don't think a whole lot of people got killed. However, I mentioned yesterday about the 29,000 people in New Jersey that got killed by the heat wave. Didn't I see something today about geez, tens of thousands all over the world? So another new death toll, and I see no honor in having my name really high up on the having killed list. I know some people it's just a job and hitting a target and all that, but bullets are a little different. Oh, I think that when somebody shoots a blazing hot piece of metal designed to go into your body and maybe exit the other side, depending on the kind of bomb, is a good thing. So, guys, we've got to just agree on a common set of facts. Can you see how if you can't agree on a common set of facts, you can't make rules to apply to that situation? And once you get one rule, then you can at least try to apply it to others. But that one was unique. And I'm gonna make another point out a little Todd Blanche thing that I thought was really funny. So the judge in D.C. orders him to turn over an unredacted copy of the Epstein files. Now, again, I'm not a genius, but I think unredacted means like as it exists, like with no mark throughs with your highlighter or magic marker or whatever it is. Yeah, that to me is where I go. So Christoph was, and I've noticed these guys are all making similar things. They're all pointing out that America is not, people just don't come for the democracy. They come to improve their lot in life. They come for the American dream that maybe if they work hard and, maybe they can have a little house and a wife and a child in the suburbs. I'm going to tell you, I don't think that's a lot that necessarily separates people anymore. I think sometimes it's just, uh, excuse me, one bad decision, one good decision. Yeah, you just never know, and those things can just be devastating in life. So you always have to be on the lookout to be positive and try to you know spin whatever you can in as positive light as possible without lying. Uh, and going forward from here, I'm going to assume, I've always had this problem believing that both political parties were equal in people's eyes. I have no idea how you would think that, other than they're just the kind of things you fall asleep in front of the TV. But I see, and January 6th is the hugest example. If we can have a general agreement that there was no fraud, that yes, I did have dinner there, and yes, I did have whatever it is. I did not, but I didn't have it, didn't order anything, and don't know really about leave my card or whatever I did. So, and after a while, guys, trying to convert a MAGA or maggot is an incredibly frustrating deal because their whole premise is irrational. I mean, they might be attracted to this guy, but they don't really know why, or they can't articulate. And so, just and like I said, you would never find unanimity with a position like that. It's always better to let people know where you stand. Uh, like I said, I wish it was a tad bit different, but we've got Donald to deal with. But just in case, give us a call at 949-629-3820, and I have a question for everybody. And the question is this: is Mitch McConnell brain dead, dead, or alive? I don't know, but I think it's got to be one of those things. And since the wife's not being particularly responsive, I would have to think that it's you know could be like coma type stuff, and just managed to knock my phone down. And I really hate doing that. I kind of like my phone as bad as it is. I don't need to be dropping it on the concrete from an elevated height. Um, and let's see where we're going. Oh yeah. Uh, so you've got Trump just he's facing these. Yeah, reality is squeezing in on him is what I really believe. Uh, he's got to spin this Iran war really positively, but he can't. And I just cannot imagine the pressure on him. Uh, is a stroke a possibility? Yeah, but I mean, I would much rather have and the status quo just because I can deal with it a little better, especially if I'm trying to help Democrats get elected. Um, and guys, that's exactly why we're here, to help Democrats get elected. After what we've seen from Trump, MAGA, and the Republican enablers, they just can't be trusted. And it was Abraham Lincoln who said something like, "Most men can suffer through adversity, uh, but if you want to find a man's real character, give him power." And Trump's always been kind of like power mad and all that, and so that's probably why he wound up working at another Ford dealer. Uh, but guys, like I say it's we've got to start calling I hate to say calling a spade, but calling a lie a lie, and that only when we stop when we discount the lies enough that they not matter, do we have any prayer of holding the country together. Like I say, we used to have immigrants come here, you know, with nothing because they knew that if they worked hard, they would survive and be able to do okay. Uh, now that's just, Trump's just so got his fingers into everything. It all, even the petty stuff has to run by him. And you guys been keeping up with, he was in NATO the other day and just left in the old Air Force One because the new Air Force One that he flew over there didn't have security enough. So we got the taxpayers got to pay for two Air Force Ones. And don't you think that's a little much to swallow? And gasoline is a little expensive these days. Uh, I mean, to be honest with you, I have no idea how people voted for the guy, but they did. And but what we can do is we can remove as many of his enablers as possible. We can win as many congressional districts, as many states are in the Senate, and guys, we can win this. It's going to take a little time, a little effort, but my God, what doesn't take time and effort? And usually, if you want something big, you got to put a lot of time and effort into it. So I'm going to hope that at the end of this, you will check out your local Democrat club. And again, I don't know how much money people have, but I would, if at all possible, I would suggest joining more than one Democrat club. And I'm going to tell you why. And I can, like I said, this is personal experience. Each club has its own uh, kind of priorities or guiding lights that they aim for. And for instance, I've noticed like Costa Mesa Democrat Club is just real inward looking as what they can do, in Costa Mesa or in their district and all that. And I completely get that. I think it's better to kind of look at a city as a whole, but be that as it may. So, and all this destruction around the White House, sorry about that. Um, the people need to agree on this too. Otherwise, you're just going to keep polarizing the citizens and polarizing them. And I'm just hoping against hope we're not there now. This is this is a huge deal, and I've got to remind everybody this is an all hands on deck red alert. And you know why they have those? Why they have all hands on deck red alerts? Because the boat's in danger of sinking and you could die. And we've already learned what death means to a what was his name? Cadet Bone Spurs, I think that's what they call him. And didn't he get like 5 deferments because of bone spurs that you would have to think did not really exist? I mean, I don't. He might be the president and all that, but I just can't imagine treating him any differently than any other citizen. I mean, that whole slush fund IRS no audit rule. I mean, who needs that but a criminal? I mean, how does that improve things? And I'm sure the Lamborghini guy was happy to sell it, but guys, it's going to take some return to decency and some agreement on these common values if there's any hope of getting people to talk to each other again. Oh God, I swear my throat starts scratching on. Uh, Sorry about that. My my throat's getting a little scratchy. I can tell it's getting on an hour. I don't. I rarely make it past an hour. So since we got a few minutes left, everyone wants to give us a call at the towards the end of the show. It is 949-629-3820, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. Tell us what's going on. Have you noticed or what's the ultimate savings in gasoline now that it's gone down a few bucks? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm still paying 30 a tank more easily. I'm just not paying double. And I mean, premium gasoline, and my car takes premium gasoline. Out here, it's almost $7 a gallon for a while. So, from $7, 5.79 looks awfully good. And I do when I pull into the gas station, I always think about the instructions I used to give when they had full service gas stations. I would tell them fill them, but don't spill them. And of course, they would fill them and spill them, just because that's what I get for trying to be clever and witty, is to get peed on. But that doesn't that go full circle? When I said I didn't want to get peed on, doesn't it just tie right back into I want to pee where Donald Trump sleeps, to the tune of Octopus's Garden? Oh gosh, isn't that really great? I started the show on the Beatles, and I'm going to end them with my interpretation of the Beatles. Now, keep in mind, people are always a little critical, but it's not easy to play guitar and sing at the same time. I mean, and my technical, and for some reason, GarageBand sucks for Instagram. So even though I can record something on in band GarageBand, it never comes out as it should because the resolution is so far off. So, guys, if you can do anything about that, let's hear it. It would be more than welcome. Let's see what else is going on tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Friday, or like I call it Friday, and I do think I'm going to enjoy this Friday. And I hate to be like this to just anticipate a beer and plan around it and all that, but that just might be the better thing to do. It's funny, Pizza de Oro, my favorite place. Just I saw they had like a combination happy hour and small plate things. So you might get a beer and like a half a piece of lasagna. You can't eat the whole thing anyway. Uh, and that and a beer. I mean, doesn't it sound really good? It does to me. So of course you need to head back up there later and because there's a little. Oh, you know what? Maybe tomorrow's eggplant day. I could stand a little eggplanto parmigiano, and I said they're really good about that stuff. If you won't ask them to leave the cheese, like crunchy or well done or whatever you want. They just they aim to please, and they're great people. So, guys, anything going on this weekend for you? Any rallies? OCC and I mean OCC, Orange County Indivisible. You out there in the yeah, they're walking the streets again. Let's hope so because the more attention, I see Trump's a unique guy, and the more you see him, the more you hate him. So we really want to make him the face that nobody likes. And that's and you know it's not like people like him just innately. They kind of take one look and saws off, and they know. They can tell the difference between a con artist and a BS artist are like too fine for me to understand. But I'm sure he's way up there in the old string width department. I'm going a little lighter this time. I think I've got tens. I've been using 11s and 12s. 12s are just entirely too stiff. I kind of like to bend my strings, so I need a kind of a lighter gauge. And so, yeah, I can't wait to do that. And that'll probably be, I might even get a chance to change strings today. Who knows? I always do a really lousy job, so I try not to do it. But I think my guitar really needs it. And guys, I'm gonna just if there's any guitar players out there, change your strings every 3 months. If you play a lot, change them every 3 months. It's the best money you ever spent. Your guitar will sound better, and you just feel better having new strings. I have no idea why. It always makes me feel. I always really want to play after I change strings. So, like I said, with that in mind, guys, it's getting to be a little late, or not late, but it's late for my voice to be holding out. I have no idea why I get so scratchy toward like after an hour, but yeah, unlike a lot of radio hosts, I'm not really used to talking nonstop for an hour. If you have the who are those guys? The KFI morning crew. Things get a little easier because there's a division of labor and you don't talk so much. And I'm sure everybody wishes there was a division of labor here so that I didn't talk so much. But guys, that's kind of the way the old cookie crumbles. And before we go, I'm going to quote my mother, quoting Sarah Palin. And whenever, whenever things get a little unpleasant, her advice to me was, "Suck it up, Buttercup." So that's mom's salute to Sarah Palin, which may have been the only intelligent thing to ever come out of her mouth. But mom remembered it and it made her happy. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to cut on out here and, say adios and just thank you.